No, my role in BIFAD is very much, of course, shaped, probably the appointment as well as my perspective on it, shaped by the work I've done throughout my career, starting with Peace Corps and then, being an agricultural economics professor, Tennessee, Virginia Tech, and here. And in those roles, I worked with USAID, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Secretary of Agriculture's office, and working specifically with food aid issues. So I've done a lot of publishing and research in that area. And then I had a National Science Foundation grant to do research in Kenya. All that is very much part of my preparation in looking at agricultural policy and trade issues.
What specifically did you do with the grant in Kenya?
We looked at the impact of food for work on family incomes, household incomes, nutrition, and on infrastructure in the community. So it was really, for me, a very important program and a very important project that got some very interesting results. They were published. I used to give advice to the World Food Program. I'd travel through Rome on my way back and forth to Africa, visiting with the World Food Program, giving them updates on the research because they were sponsoring the actual implementation of the food aid program. My research was NSF funded, so I could always give them totally objective advice on it without worrying about anything.
Right.
So it was a lot of fun. And then professionally in my field of ag econ, I held a lot of seminars and workshops at the international level focusing on these topics. So that's really was my preparation in a sense, other than knowing how a university operates, which is important for BIFAD.
Right.
So the two were perfect. I had the background academically for some key areas of agricultural development. It goes back to my studies in Wisconsin and Kentucky. And then my teaching. I used to teach this in this field. And then conducted research extensively. And now working with the university and top administration, it really gave me the angle of seeing how all this fits together and can make a difference in advice, policy advice, USAID, and other components of government. And so as I work with the National Land Grant Association and AAU, that's all in my background. And now when I leave this position in November, I'll be doing more of that. And looking forward to it very much.
So have we had Chancellor Emeriti before? Or, I mean,
I've never heard of that position
before.
I think Chancellor Wallace is Chancellor Emeritus.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, I think it's fairly common for chancellors who leave their post. Yeah. Pretty sure Richard Wallace is Chancellor Emeritus.
Going back to your time in the Peace Corps, what country did you serve?
I was in Thailand, northern Thailand,
Wow.
in the town of Nan, Nan, Thailand's province. And I taught vocational agriculture in a school, a boarding school, really.
And was that really when you knew that you wanted to focus on world food issues?
Yes, I got very, very interested in continuing a career that would address world food issues. So that's been very consistent from way back.
What did you see there that made you interested in that? Like back in.
I grew up on a small farm in eastern Kentucky, and raised most of our own food that we ate, and yet I was always hearing these stories and reading about some of the poor areas of the world. So we had a real concern for impoverished people and wanting to do something with your life and career that would help address that set of issues. So frankly, it's been a passion from my early childhood, even in 4-H Club, when I'd hear 4-H Club members talk about going abroad and working with a farm family and some of the great needs that were there and how we were so much better off. And I thought, that makes sense. We use our knowledge and wealth, in a sense, to help with conditions around the world that are not nearly as fortunate as ours. So I've been blessed to have a career that has enabled me to pursue those ideas and frankly, to share them at the highest levels of government and universities. So well, what can you say? It's been a great ride and will continue to be, it looks like. So I'm very excited about the future in that regard.
Great. Well, we'll definitely be looking forward to see what happens. I think we're going to have people at the next BIFAD meeting just covering the World Food Symposium.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Des Moines, good.
And it's cool that those things kind of intersect.
Very much so, absolutely, yeah. And everything I'm going to be doing, I am trying to focus it more. I want to look at the sort of the philosophical and ethical foundations of just what we're talking about here, and then put together ideas and thoughts about how we can best enable universities to make a contribution.
One last question, and I'm sorry if it sounds stupid, but I'm thinking about. Do you envision, in helping like impoverished countries with food security, do you see that more as like helping them have access to like the kind of agricultural products and like seed that we have in the developed world, or is it more about coming up with different innovative solutions that work in their own environment?
It's more the latter. It's more enabling them to have the option of making the decisions that best serves their need. So very much of a grassroots orientation is very important here, and also enabling us all to understand the nutritional production interface and how communities in all parts of the world, including the world of international trade, can work to further the well-being of people. And it's usually a mix of those that leads to solutions to any of these issues. And frankly, it's not just in the most impoverished area either. A lot of the challenge we face in feeding people by 2050 will depend on what we do in the United States and Europe and South America and all the developed countries as well, because there's just going to be a monumental demand for food products. So it affects what all we do, farmers in Missouri and across this country.
It's pretty astounding. It's like I've really only recently been paying attention to like commodities and things, and how like the price of soybeans in Brazil will affect decisions here.
Absolutely,
it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, sir.
I used to teach agricultural policy actually, so I was used to look at all those issues in coursework, and so that's still that's my framework there.
Well, thanks very much for speaking to me. I'll definitely be listening tomorrow too when you talk again.
I will hear some of this again tomorrow.
Great. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Congratulations.